program is The Active Center. It's created by David Sappe.
Pronounced Seppi. Today we're taking on a massive question. What is economics?
It's a big one. But we should probably skip the dense textbooks.
Right. So our goal is to really extract the core ideas, and we're going to do it by following, let's say, one entrepreneur. We'll call him Pete, a new pizzeria owner.
The great way to ground it.
So the first squeeze Pete is under, the one we all face, is really simple. We have endless wants.
But the resources he needs, the flour, the natural gas for the oven, even the delivery drivers, are finite.
And that tension right there, that's what economists call scarcity. It forces choices.
Sometimes really painful choices. And when we zoom in on those daily decisions, we're in the world of microeconomics.
The small picture.
Exactly. And this is where the law of supply and demand isn't just a chart. For Pete, it's financial pain.
Okay, give me an example.
So imagine there's a premium cheese shortage. You've got low supply, but high demand.
Which means his costs just shot up.
Right. And now he has a dilemma. Does he pass that cost to his customers and risk losing them?
Or does he cheapen the ingredients and, hurt his brand?
And on the flip side, if a bunch of new pizza chains open nearby, he suddenly has to drop his prices just to compete.
And all this back and forth, this price movement, this leads to the famous invisible hand, right? Adam Smith's idea.
That's the one.
But wait a second. Are you really telling me that Pete, just acting in his own self-interest, just trying to make a profit, that somehow leads to the most efficient outcome for everyone? It sounds a little, dangerous.
It can sound cynical, I get it, but the system is built on voluntary exchange. When Pete decides to buy a high-efficiency oven from, say, Vinny the oven salesman, they both win.
Okay, they both get what they want.
And their self-interested deal, with no central planner involved, just pushed society's capital and labor toward making something people actually value. Pizza.
So if that's Pete's daily struggle,
yeah,
how far out does that ripple? When does the national economy become his problem?
And that's the leap to macroeconomics. These aren't ripples. They're tidal waves that can sink his business.
Okay, like what?
Take inflation. It doesn't just raise his flour costs. It's what puts him in that brutal bind we talked about. Cheapen the cheese or lose the customer.
And what about something more abstract, like monetary policy?
Absolutely vital. If the central bank raises interest rates, that loan Pete needs for a new, fuel-efficient delivery fleet.
It just got a lot more expensive.
And it might stop his growth plans dead. The overall business cycle dictates if he can even think about opening a second location.
That brings us right to growth itself. Pete selling pizzas and hiring staff contributes to economic growth, which sounds great.
But there's a catch.
Unfettered growth relies on using finite resources. It leads to environmental issues, like carbon emissions from his ovens and delivery vehicles. It feels like a classic trade-off.
It doesn't have to be a zero-sum game, though. Pete can aim for sustainable economic development.
And what does that look like on the ground for him?
Well, the sources show this is actually just smart business. Yes, he can use recycled cardboard boxes, but more importantly, he can cut his transportation emissions by buying local, organic ingredients.
And I imagine investing in high-efficiency appliances would help, too.
A lot. It lowers his environmental impact while actually making his business more resilient and, higher quality.
So let's wrap this up. What does all this mean for you, the listener? We've gone from the basic problem of scarcity
through the daily grind of microeconomics
to the tidal waves of macro forces.
Yeah.
And then found this balance. With sustainability, we've covered the whole economic stack.
So here's a final thought to mull over. Since economics is fundamentally about allocating resources
and making choices,
think about your simplest personal choice. Buying a single pizza from Pete delivered in that sustainable box.
Okay.
That is a fundamental act of resource allocation. It sends a price signal, which is micro. It affects employment, which is macro. And it creates demand for greener packaging, which is sustainability.
So every purchase is a vote.
Every single purchase is a resource vote, and that's what you should really mull over.
Scarcity.